today will be amazing. So wake up and smile. Positivity is a choice that becomes a lifestyle. Each day is an opportunity to grow. I hope we can make the most of it. Life never gives you second chance, so enjoy every bit of it. Why not start with this beautiful morning? A very good morning to all of you. Respected Dr. Sangeeta Pawar ma'am, Professor, Department of Commerce, Senate Member, University of Mumbai. Dr. Saroja Subramanyam ma'am, Professor and Chair of the Marketing and Communication Department, the AACSB Director for the Director of Economics, for the School of Economics and Business Administration at St. Mary's College of California, USA. Professor P.S. Pandey, Principal of Rajiv Gandhi College of Arts, Commerce and Science, Vashi, Navi, Mumbai. Mr. Venkatesh Ravishankar, convener of this international seminar. Learned delegates from academia and corporate, and my dear student, a very good morning, one and all. I am Assistant Professor Anamika Singh, and I am privileged to welcome you all on behalf of Department of Commerce, Management Studies and IQAC of Rajiv Gandhi College of Arts, Commerce and Science, Vashi, Navi, Mumbai, in association with University of Mumbai to organize an interdisciplinary one-day international virtual seminar on global business in new normal era, changing paradigm in bottom of pyramid. Let us begin this program and we pray to Lord Ganesha to give all of us the strength to learn as much as we want and to bless us with his blessing. I request Professor Priyanka More to grace this moment with Sri Mahaganesha Pancharatna Stotra. Over to you, Priyanka ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Mudakarat modakam sada vibhukti sadakam kaladharavatam sakam vilasi lokarakshakam anayakaikanayakam vinashitebhya daityakam natashubhashunashakam namamitam vinayakam न ते तराते भीकरं नवोदितार्कभास्वरं नमस्तुरारि निर्जरो नतादिका पदोद्धरं सुरेश्वरं निधीश्वरं गजेश्वरं गणेश्वरं महेश्वरं तमाश्रये परात्परं निरन्तरम् समस्तलोकशङ्करं निरस्तदैत्यकुञ्जरम् दरेदरोदरं वरं वरे भवक्त्रमक्षरम् कृपाकरं क्षमाकरं मुदाकरं यशस्करं मनस्करं नमस्कृतां नमस्करो विभास्वरम् अकिञ्चनार्तिमार्जनं चिरन्तनोक्तिभाजनम् पुरारि पूर्वनन्दनं सुरारि गर्वशर्वणम् प्रपञ्चनाशभीषणं धनञ्जयादिभूषणम् कपोलदानवारणं भजे पुराणवारणम् नितान्तकान्तिदन्तकान्तिमन्तकान्तिकात्मजम् अचिन्त्यरूपमन्तहीनमन्तराय क्रन्तनम् हृदन्तरे निरन्तरं वसन्तमेव योगिनां तमेकदन्तमेकमेव चिन्तयामि सन्ततम् महागणेश पञ्चरत्नमादरेण योन्महम् प्रजल्पति प्रभातके हृदि स्मरं गणेश्वरम् अरोगतामदोषता सुदाहता सुपुत्रता समायुतायुरष्टभुक्तिमभ्युपैति सोचिरात् ॐ Thank you, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you, Priyanka More, ma'am. It's very big blessing we receive from Lord Ganesha. We are moving ahead. The pandemic crisis in the form of COVID-19 has not only impacted the global economy, but also disturbed the political, social, economic, and financial structure. Isolations and lockdowns are the two main options left to the limit the spread of virus to protect the human lives and allowing the healthcare system to deal with the virus as at that time no medication was available for the coronavirus. Although Indian economy was going through tough time and the outbreak of COVID-19 has created more challenging situation. Though the COVID-19 has been the challenging time for everyone, it has also created opportunities and made everyone to think out of the box in terms of carrying out the professional and business work. The new developments that have been taken place, such as development of working at isolation and connecting with the teams through Zoom, etc., which was very rare prior to COVID. Taking education online at large, developing of PPE kit at home, etc. Even the central government has taken a lot of initiative in this regard. One of such initiative is Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan and Be Vocal for Local. These changes have been taken place in global business at large. We, the stakeholders of Sainath Education Trust, Rajiv Gandhi College of Arts, Commerce and Science, felt that global businesses are reinventing the new norms of doing business and roadmaps have been made for changing paradigm in the bottom of the pyramid. Thus, we planned these brainstorming sessions of intellectuals in this one-day international seminar and trying to bring focus to be ready for the new normal world. Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. Education is the most powerful weapon. We can use it to change the world. With this note, I would now request Professor B.S. Pandey, Principal of Rajiv Gandhi College of Arts, Commerce and Science, Vashi, Navi, Mumbai, to deliver the welcome address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Anamika Singh, for putting lights onto this program. Respected Dr. Saroja Subramanyam, my mentor and guide, Dr. Sangeeta Pawar Madam, Technical Chairperson, Dr. Koel Rajiv Madam from West Bengal, Aparna Das Madam from Himachal Pradesh University, and Dr. C.A. Meenakshi Rash from University of Mumbai. Dear researchers, colleagues, and students, I, Professor B.S. Pandey, would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you in this international virtual seminar. I would like to congratulate the organizing team, convener V. Ravisankar, co-conveners Anamika Singh and Jyotsna Samant for organizing such a beautiful program. And I'm very happy to share with you people that more than 150 participation we have received till the time. And I would love to share that out of that 150, more than 50 students are have participated and they are going to present the papers in coming sessions. So this is something which I would like to share with you all. I'm very proud. Why? Because ultimately, whatever we do, whatever research we do, whatever talk we arrange, ultimate beneficiaries are our students. So we, from beginning only, we try to inculcate them into the seminar. And I'm very happy to announce, very proudly I can say that we succeeded. We all are aware that online virtual seminar is something which is new for us. Just 1 year back, we cannot imagine having such a seminar and having such type of gathering. But this is the fact, this is the reality of today's life. The COVID-19 pandemic has created the largest disruption of education system in the history. Not only in India, the whole world got affected. affecting nearly around 1.6 billion learners in more than 190 countries and all continents. Closure of schools and other learning spaces have impacted 94% of world students' population, up to 99% in low and lower middle income countries. So the developing countries and underdeveloped countries are the one who got affected badly. The COVID-19 pandemic has led to some element of teaching learning being changed permanently. As I just told with you, share with you, having online virtual seminar 1 year back was something which we could not think only. And today we are already on virtual platform and sharing each one's thought and views. So this is something which has happened because of this pandemic. Schools and colleges were shut down in the second week of March, especially in India perspective, as a preventive measures to contain the spread of COVID-19. Apart from impacting the future of 32 crores young citizens, this has also pushed educators to reshape the mechanism of imparting lesson. And this was also a big challenge for all of us because we were very much habitual of having physical classes. So this was also a challenging task for us as a teacher to shape our self, to change our teaching mechanism to cope up with the new scenario. Some immediate measures include shifting teaching process online on an untested and unprecedented scale, conducting online assignments and trial and error basis, creating content suitable for remote learning, using technology and tools among others. However, transmitting an online mode has had its share of challenges. Of course, every time when something new come to our life or something new, some new things we are going to try, it has their own challenges. These includes limited access to the internet. This is the biggest problem, even though nowadays also in India, I'm sorry, lack of uninterrupted power supply, ill-equipped teachers, absence of a robust monitoring method, hindrance to replacing the rapport between teachers and students in an online world, bridging the patchy and impersonal online experience, increase in screen time, and unavailability of tools to create content in regional languages. These are the biggest challenges we faced while this transmission period. The impact has been more severe for disadvantaged children, leading to interrupted learning, compromised nutrition, childcare problems, and consequent economic costs to families who cannot work. Another challenge is to ensure that students return and stay in school when school reopen. Still, this is a big challenge for all of us. We cannot assure that when schools or colleges are going to reopen. And whenever this is going to be happen, whether students will come back to school with the same passion, it's still a big question to all of us. This is especially true for protected closures and when economic shocks place pressure on children to work and generate income for financially distressed family. Our trust and our institution policy is to deal with such unprivileged students. And from my experience, I can share with all of you that more than 70% of our students are currently working. I cannot say whether they are working with their own means or they are forced to work. If I'm using the word they are forced to work, it doesn't mean their family forced. The financial situation forced them to choose working. So whether they will return to regular college or lectures, that's a big question and big challenge for all of us. As we find solution to these challenges, we see glimpse of the future of learning, while educators and students are eager for institution to open. The crisis has led to some element of learning being changed permanently. Having said this, colleges and schools do much more than just deliver content and teach. The teacher's ability to engage students in debate, discussion, to mentor and to coach, and to inspire and motivate is difficult to replicate in the online format. What is also difficult to replicate in peer learning, participation in extracurricular activities and sports, experiential learning and development of emotional, quantum and leadership ability. While schools and colleges, the way we know them are here to stay, the way learning happens and the way teachers teach ensure to be changed. The crisis is aggravating pre-existing education disparities by reducing the opportunities for many of the most vulnerable children, youth, and adults, those living in poor or rural areas, girls, refugees, person with disability, and forcibly displaced person to continue their learning. Learning losses also threaten to extend beyond this generation and erase decade of progress, not least in support of girls, young women's educational access and retention. Some 23.8 billion additional children and youth from pre-primary to tertiary may drop out or not have access to school next year due to pandemic's economic impact alone. Similarly, the education disruption has had and will continue to have substantial effect beyond education. Closure of educational institutions hampers the provision of essential services to children and communities, including access to nutrition food, affect the ability of many parents to work, and increase risk of violence against women and girls. We have never known such a situation where no in business, no leader, no industry, no government is spared from an uncontrollable phenomena. Dramatically, the fragility of business and our world has been exposed. But what could the aftermath be? Will the consequences of this crisis permanently mark the business world? Beyond the economic aspect, we are going to see a paradigm shift in the way companies see the transformation of their activities, their strategies, and their priorities. The time will test how badly this pandemic has affected our life. At the very least, they will surely have to reassess their dependency on their ecosystem and re-evaluate their risk at all levels. Decisions will be made to modify or secure supply and distribution circuits. So I'm very much sure that today's virtual seminar will address the problem and try to find some solution out of it. It is possible that concept of solidarity becomes a stronger value in the business world too. We can clearly see today's player collaborating who are previously in competition. Pharmaceutical companies join force to find a vaccine as quickly as possible, even though vaccination has started. And in India, around 7 crore people has got first dose of vaccine. Still long way to go. And it is also a big challenge for government, not only in India, across the world, to provide vaccine and sort of protection to each and every citizen of their country. Looking to the future, this closer and more harmonious relationship between players in the beginning of what could be put in place after the pandemic. Companies can no longer continue to be passive on subjects that require a collective approach. This unprecedented crisis is prompting companies to act with integrity and to put themselves at the service of the society. How are business going to have to transform themselves to ensure their future sustainability? This is also a big question. How does business sustainability ties in with the increasing attention and demand on the environmental, social, and governance front? This is also a big question in front of all of us. Compliance with ESG criteria was already a key issue before this pandemic. Nevertheless, this crisis has highlighted the social component of it. In concrete terms, many companies are already helping to find solutions to respond to certain emergencies. Companies that demonstrate their civic engagement prove that they are ready to assume a responsible role within society at the service of their customer and more broadly for a collective well-being. Collaboration between public and private authorities on ESG issue is now crucial. ESG to 4 is increasingly evident the economic strength and ESG cannot be separated. Certain companies and potentially certain sectors and countries will become less attractive to investors due to ESG risk, which will make their financing much more expensive. It is very clear that ESG criteria will become an essential basis for any investment decision in a sector or a country. So now companies are also changing their approach, and of course that is because of this pandemic. Overall, the COVID-19 pandemic crisis has so far demonstrated the closer relationship between sustainability, corporate resilience, and economic activity. ESG factors are likely to become the new standard for helping business respond effectively to unexpected challenges. It is time for all of us to start questioning our actions. Are we, as consumer and business, able to return to our previous lifestyle without questioning the impact of each operation, purchase, or investment? Will we continue to support companies that are not looking for alternate solution to reduce their impact on the environment? Will we continue to support companies that are not willing to contribute positively to a post-crisis society? Whether our conscious mind will allow us to do so, that's a big question in front of all of us. The longer this crisis continues, almost 1 year, the greater the consequences for normal life history. Teaches us that such massive shocks trigger important changes thereafter. For the COVID-19 crisis, this could be synonymous with transformation of companies on several levels, as all sectors are forced to rethink their ways of acting. It is certain that there will be a before and an after COVID-19, but it remains to be determined how exactly this future will look. One thing for certain, that COVID-19 crisis will mark a turning point in our history of mankind. To prepare for the aftermath, companies must adapt, anticipate changes, and accelerate their transformation. In this, preserving or even strengthening their capacity to innovate is a fundamental. Indeed, it is not enough to succeed in going through this unprecedented crisis. It is essential to be able to ready for the new world after COVID-19. Let us hope that after is more united than before. I would like to conclude my speech because we are already having two experts, and I would like to share one more thing with all of you. 8th March we were celebrated Women's Day, and today we are having five guest speakers, and all five are women. So this is very proud moment for all of us, for our institution also, that this is the true example of women empowerment. Yesterday only Professor V. Ravisankar told me, sir, we are having all five experts and all are ladies. So that is something which is unique. That is also something which is changing. So thank you very much for your patience listening. And again, I would like to welcome Dr. Saroja, Subramanyam, and Dr. Sangeeta Pawar for this session. Thank you. Jai Hind, Jai Maharashtra.
Thank you so much, sir, for your thought-provoking address. Set a perfect platform for our speakers to deliver their presentation in the areas of global business in new normal era. Well, Dean William R. Inge once said, the aim of education is the knowledge, not of fact, but of values. It is an occasion like this we get opportunities to share our knowledge and understanding. We look forward to get an exposure about what the best of the brains think about this very dynamic issue of global business in new normal era. We felt honored to have with us our theme note speaker of this seminar, Dr. Sangeeta Pawar ma'am, Professor, Department of Commerce, Senate member, University of Mumbai. Ma'am is elected Senate member of University of Mumbai. She is also elected grievance committee member of University of Mumbai. She is also recipient of Savitribai Phule Adarsh Shiksha Best Teacher Award 2017-18 for achieving excellency in academic teaching, research, and knowledge with equal dedication and sincerity in social work. awardee of Adarsh Shiksha Puraskar at state level for social commitment. She is also Board of Studies member in Commerce, University of Mumbai. She is also Board of Studies of member in Human Resource Management, Savitribai Phule, University of Pune. She is also Board of Studies member in Commerce of Autonomous Colleges of Mumbai. Ma'am has presented more than 60 papers in the area of commerce as the core subject of management, marketing, labors, financial inclusion, economic, social issues of the economy. Ma'am has written and contributed her intellectual credentials in 75 peer-reviewed, renowned national and international journal, magazines, conference proceedings. She has also contributed chapters and articles in 7 edited books. She chaired more than 50 technical sessions in international conferences and seminars across India. She is a resource person in RUSA and UGC organized orientation, refresher courses, pre-PhD coursework at Mumbai University, Savitribai Phule University, Pune, North Bengal University, Bagdora. She is also a resource person of research in commerce and management, interdisciplinary workshop, and she has organized many number of conferences and seminars and workshops as a chairperson as well as a convener. You have made all of us proud of your distinguished work in numerous capacities. May I now request Dr. Sangeeta Pawar ma'am to enlighten seminar with your words. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Anamika madam. A very good morning to one and all. At the outset, I extend my warm greetings to the entire organizing team of Rajiv Gandhi College of Commerce. And I must mention this very vehemently that Professor B.S. Pandey, the principal of the college, has made it a point to tell us that this is one of the extraordinary kind of a virtual seminar with its own international taste at the same time, calling the August gathering of women as the resource person. It seems to be a great empowerment to all of us. So thank you so much, Principal Pandey sir, that you really thought of it, that this can be one of the platform that could be shared by most of the renowned personalities across the world, because I'm very much delighted and immensely pleasure to have Dr. Saroja ma'am from California University to be a part of this seminar. And in the right spirit of international to be called as, this counts to be the best kind of an attempt that the college has really thought about. So these are my kind few words for your motivation, that you could look forward to go ahead with this more such type of programs in the future. And this virtual platform definitely is allowing most of the academic field people to really have a good deliberations and healthy discussions. Therefore, the theme that you have sought out for this particular international seminar is also equally very important and to be complemented, for the reason that when you talk about 2020 as a year of remorse, you know that entire the world knows that the whole world was battling against the virus, and we are back to having a battle of human race in terms with the other economic factors. Where in a country like India, where we talk about the mixed economy, democratic status, we have to really talk in terms with now after the pandemic, what is the situation of the economy. As in, we have an expert, definitely Saroja ma'am will take us on an economic journey in terms with knowing what the global arena thinks about. I being a little more precisely in line with the social background, I could be more comfortable to speak more in lines with the social infrastructure that, like, most of the Asian countries should look forward to understand. Bearing in mind the time constraint, definitely I will not go into the depth of any of the aspects. I would just give a very nutshell kind of description. And to be very clear in terms of checking out what has happened in this few months period of time during the pandemic situation, that too in the case of a country like India, wherein we have grappling with the situations which are in terms with the human existence, as long as they are manpower holding is concerned, the corporate structures are being concerned, the employment scenario is being concerned. Predominantly, I would draw attention of the entire participants over here to the recent budget, which really had made appropriate provisions which could look forward to push in Indian strategies back to the wheels of growth and so on. Therefore, not failing to understand that Ricardo's theory generally sublimely mentions the concept of landlords, capitalists, and the laborers. So when you look in point of view of these three genres, we get to understand that right now the situation in India definitely is very crippling, because we are trying to understand the complete compartment of economic growth from the point of view of organized and unorganized sectors, because the budget definitely is taking care of the small medium enterprises, the MSMEs, micro small medium enterprises. They are looking forward to bring in more credit and the bank transactions becoming more liberalized, looking forward to give more space to the farming agriculture sector and so on. Despite that, there are certain issues which still remain as it is, and the stagnation is definitely going to be of a big worry for a country like India. Uh, Definitely in terms with the three F's, which I generally think of talking about, which is nothing but fuel, fertilizers, and food. So, as in to talk about the agriculture sector is concerned, I must say that India is self-sufficient enough in terms of agriculture production, because we have certain states which are absolutely productive in terms of agricultural productions, and we are good exporters to the other worldwide nations too. So, as in agriculture is concerned, definitely some crisis has come up because of the minimum production prices. So that definitely needs to be a little bit kind of an aspect which the government will do take care. But as in the agriculture sector would be concerned, I am sure that our sector is self-sufficient enough to gear up the economic ratio in terms of adding on to the GDP and so on. So when we look into the determinants of economic factors, we generally see that agriculture sector definitely is revenue generating. But in line with that, when you look forward to understand the food processing areas and so on, which are semi-organized and unorganized, they are definitely facing a lot of shackles as long as the global crisis or the global setups would be concerned, because we need to be more exportable in terms with what we produce over here. And sector also have to look it from the point of view of how the employment is going to be generated. So I may not be wrong in saying that employment scenario is slightly under a kind of depletion status in India, and which needs to be a little bit more pushed in. So this pull and push strategies are going to be a little bit of worry for India as long as the 2021 scenario is being concerned. So that could be one aspect that I would draw attention to. And the next two aspect which I am really worried about is nothing but the health sector, as in the social infrastructure is being concerned. Because when you look at the global scenario, I may not be wrong in saying that America really takes care of having at least 8% of their GDP, or Russia also has a close proximity of about 4% of GDP that they really think about, or they do actually spend on the health sector. But when you talk about India, we are almost marginal in the scale of GDP ratios spending on the health sector. And this budget, definitely, a lot of scholars have mentioned that at least about 2.5 ratio needs to be the ratio under which the expenditures on the health should go ahead with. Because if I'm not wrong, in India Today magazine of 2017, it was pronounced very clearly that the healthcare sector in India by 2020 is going to draw about $8 billion forex index, that is a foreign exchange index is being concerned. At the same time, 2025 may about 5.4 million jobs will be created. So when 2017 predicted that, definitely India was moving in that order. But unfortunately, when the 2020 came up, it is definitely giving a huge lesson to India that what we did not think in the past by investing more in the public health, now this is the time that the pandemic has given us a lesson that now India have to be more proactive in spending largely on the healthcare sector. And when I say that 5.4 million jobs will be created, definitely the healthcare sector will be the one which will be in the process to create more jobs in India. So this is something which has to lot to do with in terms with the global scenario also, because we are in terms with drawing in the FDPs, the foreign direct investment, which is a foreign direct investment coming into the insurance sector. So medical insurance all will be tied up together. So we are opening up the sectors more for the foreign players, and within that ratio, definitely global setups for the Indian market will also allow us to be more proactive in the global market, make it more possible to have better stock market indexes, because after the corporate tax war being abrogated, definitely the stock market indexes are zoomed up. They are really hiked up. But this scenario could be in terms with understanding the present phases of what is being happening in terms of the business sectors and so on. Because as I said, when you look at the capitalist structure, the capitalist sector will be more in terms with how they look forward to understand the determinants of economic growth in terms with demand supply ratio, productivity, profitability. So nothing is left for the unorganized people, nothing is left for the poor. So we need to bring a balance between the poor and the rich. Like for example, 1980s and 1990s in India, there was a huge close down of textile mills because the power looms came up. So modernity and a change is a must, but that is always at the cost of something. And the cost is always the human beings. That is, the people had to lose the jobs and so on. Similar kind of effects are always seen in the other ratios. For example, if the city beautification has to take, the slums have to be completely removed. So obviously the people will be displaced, people will have to shift to some different areas. Or for example, polluting creating companies are shifted outskirts of a particular area. So automatically people are displaced. They have to search for new jobs. So this is a very specific procedure which is out and out applicable in every country. But Asian countries definitely look at this in a different manner, because for Asian countries, the problems which are chronic by way of poverty, population, health, or education, they are always at the first place in the scoreboards. And for India, this may not be a kind of a nightmare, because all of the planning processes in India definitely always takes into consideration the education parameters, the processes of health parameters, the processes of industrial parameters, and according to that, the economic setups do take place, because these are actually the wheels which allow us to be more competitive in the global market. So I guess that 2022 needs to be a little bit more aggressively taken up by the nation, as in for looking into all the subjective and the objective parameters of growth factors. And according to that, maybe the perennial development, which we generally talk in terms with few sectors which are unorganized, also need to be pushed in back to the market for considering the requirements of small traders, or agricultural small farmers, or wage earners, and in line with all these things, we have to also consider the sustainable development factors, which Principal Pandey did also mention. But in the same time, when you get back to understand the millennium goals, somewhere some subjective elements are not being considered. So those are again back to having an analytical scope at the academic levels. And this kind of discussion definitely will allow us to be more prolific in putting forward to certain strategical growth goal strategies. Because when you look forward to understand exclusively the education sector, this present budget in India really has taken care of the rural Indian scope analysis, wherein the right to education will be now pushed in from the age of 3 up to 14. So this is a good kind of a strategy, but unfortunately, at the accountability, execution, and implementation level, certain drawbacks do come up. And if they are appropriately considered, I'm sure that under the national education policy, we will be able to have good collaboration with the global countries also. So there are specific areas under which we are expecting tie-ups with the global universities, the reputed universities of the world, which would then enhance the research for the economically stable countries, which could also rank up them in the arena So these are few initiations we are hoping to take care of. At the same time, the National Health of 2017 is also pronouncing the same strategies related to affordability of healthcare segment areas. At the same time, making the rural hospitals which are coming under the Jilla Parishad and all, like, they also need to be given proper care in terms of adding more beds and doctors and so on. So that is also one aspect. And of course, more investments in the public health needs to be more analyzed. So these are few things which I want to share with all of you. I hope I have already set a goal for each one of you to move on with the right directions. So that's all from my side. And once again, I thank this particular webinar organization, which is definitely an international seminar of its own taste, as I mentioned in the beginning. So thank you very much, Principal Pandey, sir. My special thank to you, because I've been finding out that last 1 week, say, you have been making the things so very well, organized in terms of making it in the absolute use of digital strategies. So digital technology is very well utilized by you for this virtual seminar. So thank you once again. Thank you, the entire organizing team. And over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for giving your valuable insights on the theme of this international seminar. We are so honored and privileged to have you among us. Before moving ahead, I just like to welcome Dr. Koyal Mukherjee, our Dr. CA Meenakshi Dutt ma'am, to as the technical chairpersons who also joined us in this program. Only through education does one come to be dissatisfied with his own knowledge, and only through teaching others does one come to realize the uncomfortable inadequacy of his knowledge. Being dissatisfied with his one and own knowledge, one then realizes that the trouble lies with himself, and realizing the uncomfortable inadequacy of his knowledge, one then feels stimulated to improve himself. Therefore, it is said the process of teaching and learning stimulate one another. Said by Confucius, I am profusely elated to take an opportunity to introduce our keynote speaker of the day, Dr. Saroja Subramanyam ma'am. Dr. Saroja Subramanyam is Professor and Chair of Marketing Communication Department and the AACSB Director for the School of Economics and Business Administration at St. Mary's College of California, USA. She is also an independent market research consultant and has done consulting assignments for various firms, including non-profit and government agencies. Dr. Subramanyam has a PhD in marketing and master's in statistics and operation research from New York University and MBA from an Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, and a BTech in chemical engineering from Indian Institute of Technology. She has published several academic papers and business cases in respected peer-reviewed journals such as Journal of Public Policy and Marketing and Journal of Business Research. She received the Outstanding Scholar Award from St. Mary's in 2016 and was a Fulbright US Scholar to Myanmar in 2016-17. Her current research interests are in the areas of ethical consumption in economically challenged market, and the business cases writing. May I now request Dr. Saroja Subramanyam ma'am to enlighten us with her thought and words. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Anamika. I'd like to share some slides, if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. It's truly an honor to be here. I enjoyed Professor Pandey's summary of the impact of COVID and possible ways ahead. So it's basically what I was going to talk about. So, Professor Pandey, I really appreciated all the key insights you gave on that. And I also liked the quick economic overview that Dr. Sangeeta Pawar provided. It was very, very interesting to hear that. I was very interested to see that this topic on the bottom of the pyramid, it's one of the areas that I do research on from a marketing and consumption point of view. When I looked at your college, your vision and mission is to serve people who are economically challenged. So you're far ahead of the game already, because many of the business schools in the US, they have projects where they are trying to help people who are at the bottom of the pyramid, and there is quite a bit of disconnect because they have to learn what it is to be poor. So they try to partner with and do projects in different parts of the world. So it is amazing that your educational mission and vision is to help people who are at the base of the pyramid. So hats off to you. What I'm going to talk about is I am just talking briefly about the overview of COVID, which you already know. I'll just provide some statistics, the impact worldwide in India, and some thoughts on maybe some ways that we can go ahead. What are some thoughts? Obviously, one single person is not going to change anything. We have to pool collectively worldwide thinking on this. When we are talking about changing paradigm, it's a big shift. When was the last time the paradigm changed? Well, one big change was when the Industrial Revolution came about and people completely changed their way of thinking. There was a pandemic in the United States in the 1920s, and it killed off almost close to 1 million people. When there are such huge shifts, people change certain ways of doing things, and we hope that it will change. We move forward in a more positive way, more inclusive way. So I'll start by defining what is poverty and what is bottom of the pyramid. I personally don't like the word bottom of the pyramid, but it has stuck. I think in India, you use a below poverty line. And that too is unfortunate. It's almost as if there are some people who are meant to be poor. It creates a very different mentality. So the way poverty is defined is in many different ways. Fundamentally, it's defined. People don't have access to basic human needs, food, clothing, shelter. They're just struggling to survive. And that's not the way that we are meant to be as human beings. You want to do more than just survive. So in many cases, you don't have freedom to choose what to do. And extreme poverty is defined as living on less than $2 a day. Although even at $4 a day, you're pretty close to poverty, and even up to $10 a day, you are just about managing. So extreme poverty is quite a shame on humanity. And as Dr. Pawar just mentioned, India has enough food and still there are people who are poor. Why so? And that's true for different parts of the world. That's true in the United States. It was very surprising for me when I came to the US. You do read about poverty in the abstract, but I was shocked to see poor people who in the bitter cold, it's snowing, they have to stuff newspapers in their shoes to keep them warm. So there are poor people in different parts of the world, but in terms of sheer numbers, it is more in some parts of the country, some parts of the world, I'm sorry. So bottom of the pyramid really refers to the extreme poor, and in developing countries, in terms of sheer number, there tend to be more worldwide, about almost 3 billion people, which is a huge part of our global population. So that is shameful. And so the United Nations, in collaboration with different countries, they have the Sustainable Development Goals to reduce poverty. And so what was the report card like? Overall poverty levels did decrease. And one of the engines of growth, the market-based economic developments, has many faults. However, it did reduce poverty in different countries, and the biggest was in China and then India. And so they did provide growth. There were negative effects, as has been already mentioned, like issues related to pollution and bad labor conditions. Nevertheless, overall, they say a rising tide lifts all boats. So as the entire economy grows, people benefit. There is a trickle-down effect where more jobs are created, you need more services, and so on and so forth. So there is a trickle-down effect. So poverty has reduced over time. United Nations had this ambitious sustainable development goals, and they keep revising the Millennium Goals. In 2015, they came up with 17 sustainable development goals, of which reducing proportion of reducing poverty was the primary goal, basically. And let's reduce poor people by half over the world, which is very ambitious, to implement social protection systems. As we know now in COVID and even pre-COVID, the social protection systems for the poor tend not to be there. And this may come as a surprise to some people, but even in the US, even though I think we spend more than 15% of our GDP on healthcare. Healthcare is very expensive. We do not have universal healthcare like the UK has. So if you lose a job, you can end up being newly poor because hospital costs, medical care is very, very expensive here. And if you don't have a job, you probably don't have medical care. So it becomes very expensive even here. But for many people at the base of the pyramid, the implementing social protection schemes become very important. It is not theirs, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. Equal access to economic resources and basic services. And we are seeing this now, that not everybody has equal access to medical care. Some people have better access when they fall sick, some not. So that is one of the goals for ending poverty and reducing exposure to climate-related changes. And as was mentioned earlier, when there are industries and so on, they're polluting. There needs to be more activists who will speak up and talk about what is environment impact, and there should be legislation in place so the businesses are held accountable. And the poorest tend to suffer more than the others. So there is this tremendous inequality, and providing means for developing countries. How do you create systems in place so that it's not a one-off philanthropy? So that is pretty important. And how do you encourage investments so that there is this self-sustaining cycle of eradicating poverty? So those were some of the goals. And very ambitiously, they said, we will realize this by 2030, which is 9 years away now. So what have we done so far? You'll notice that, poverty eradication just in the last 20, 25 years, it has been reducing quite a bit, and which is very remarkable. And I said, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of changes were made in China and in India. So two big economies and two highly populated countries. So you can see that in 2005 and 6, more than 640 million poor people across India, which got reduced considerably in 15, 16. So Indians escaped, but the rate at which we were handling poverty was slowing down. And with the COVID, this has become a problem because people have been pushed back into poverty, those who are slowly coming up. So we have newly poor as well. So you can see here, this is the global impact. Even globally, we were going down, but there has been, a increase because of the COVID. So COVID has negatively impacted the bottom of the pyramid the most. No doubt it's impacting everyone, but the impact on the people who are already poor is considerably more. And so what does this mean for the sustainable development goals? It doesn't look like we'll achieve that by 2030, and it's pushing millions of people back into poverty. So we are reversing some of the things that we have already seen in terms of poverty alleviation. So in India, of course, the Indian population, the average age is considerably low now. When I last looked at 2019 figures, about 90% of the population is below 65 years, and a good portion of them would be the working age population, and at least 14% are said to have lost their jobs. So that, of course, is considerably going to affect the recovery of the economy, and also climbing out of poverty is going to be very difficult. So the economy shrank and so on. You know this, and so those who are already economically challenged are challenged even more. And we are looking at people waiting in the line for food. So poverty is increased, and this is true even in richer countries. The food banks in the US, for example, they need more donations and so on. So we are going back in some ways to square one. And so why is this happening? One thing to think about is there any breakdown in the infrastructure? Is the food moving where it needs to? What is blocking even today? And that's true in different parts of the world. Where is the blockage and why things are not moving smoothly? And so if we identify that in terms of governance structures or a physical infrastructural blockage, that would be very helpful if there was such a problem in the future. So we know this, not everybody has, all sectors have been affected the same way. As we know, some industries were affected more than others. And so we have travel, tourism was affected considerably. And interestingly, that's a sector that has a very large informal sector of people working in that sector. So the impact is even more in certain industries, certain sectors. And then we have people in basically the hospitality industry has been considerably affected. And, so what does this mean? Is there a way to pivot and pick up other skills? Is it, how easy is it? Those are some of the things that one has to think about. For example, more people need things brought to their house. Can you use your driving skills or taxi skills to go into a new type of a job using the same skills, or can you learn new skills? So those are some of the things that one can think about going forward, because today it will be one sector, tomorrow it will be a different sector. Can people be trained to provide, for example, certain types of medical help? You don't have to go through 10 years of medical education to provide basic medical care, right? How can we train people? One of the impressive things I read about was how the COVID was contained in a very large slum like Dharavi. So how do they do that? Going from door to door, checking. So there are systems in place where you're able to reach people. So can we use those systems going forward for other kinds of services? For example, door-to-door medical services in normal times. That's something to think about. So how have we managed COVID so far? So that's something to think about. The people at the base of the pyramid have faced, huge challenges. And so informal sector has been the worst hit. Some of us are fortunate that we still have our jobs. So people have received aid from the government. That has been probably the single biggest help, receiving immediate food, receiving cash, receiving a place to stay, like a relief camp and so on. And then given if businesses are able to provide, are in a position to provide shelter, maybe you're in the construction or hotel industry, or a business that has excess space, are you able to provide? So these are what is emergency help. This is not a solution long-term or a paradigm changing, but this is what has been done. So COVID has affected considerably. So the kind of ways people have been helped are more in the direction of emergency help. And the government has tried quite a bit to help as well. You have the government offering relief plan, and we have that in the US recently. New President Biden has signed a huge stimulus package. And there are many people, if they show they're below a certain income, they received a check for the last year to cover, and also to cover their employees. So direct aid to people. In some countries, they do have a basic income that is assured. The government gives it to you. So they tax themselves so that they can give to others. So that is one. Food security. So you have your prime ministers, what was that? The Garib Yojana scheme, Anna Yojana scheme. And so that is one way, directly providing food, accommodation to migrant workers and so on. Worldwide, it is somewhat similar. The differences are, in addition, if you have employment insurance, income support, for example, Canada has that. UK, of course, has, everybody is assured of universal health, which shamefully we don't in the US. When Obama was the president, he tried so hard to push it. So we do have relief package, the unemployment scheme in the US, and partial unemployment and so on. So these are all emergency measures, and nobody knows yet who's going to pay for all this in the end. But these measures have been passed because overall the economy has to grow so that ultimately countries are able to pay their debt. So some other measures we can look at, how what kind of help has been provided to people who have lost their jobs, a way to livelihood. So one of the biggest things we can do to lift people out of poverty is to make sure there is a sustainable sort of livelihood. It's not a one-time job. There is the famous saying, like, teach a man to fish, not just give him fish, right? But many times people, certain jobs can be removed. So can people be offered training in jobs? That becomes very, very important. Skills development. So in India, for example, you have the Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industries they offered a free management course on how to protect yourself from COVID and so on, even knowledge about that. Like that, if you can provide basic skills on, for example, marketplace literacy, or basic things people have to know about business, that can be very helpful. The World Bank has partnered with the International Labor Organization for and facilitating training to provide skills. With a very large young population in India, getting more of the digital literacy skills can be very, very helpful. Interestingly, in the US, they have what is called the gig economy. It sounds very high tech, and a lot of people do freelance. And they actually suffered a lot during the pandemic because consulting jobs and jobs which were, considered discretionary, that we could put it away for a while, they were unable to get employment. And interviewing, providing skills, partnering with large organization, especially tech organization. Many times, even large organization, think about an Amazon, which has made an inroad in India as well. They have very high-tech systems, but they also have low-tech, for example, people who deliver things door to door. You still need people for delivery and so on. So you need different kinds of skills. Can you identify those skills? Can you train people? So that is an important way to combat poverty. Businesses have mostly helped people so far in terms of direct philanthropy. For example, people donating testing kits, Amazon donating money. 5 million is a drop in the ocean for them, and likewise for Microsoft. These are not very, what shall I say, very impressive in terms of paradigm shifting. These are just mere philanthropy. So it's really important to engage when you're talking about paradigm shifting for different actors and entities to come together. The government has already done quite a bit in India. The way India reacted to the lockdown very swiftly, providing minimum support for farmers, and so on. So these are important ways, but can you make it so that post-pandemic, we can use these measures to reduce poverty? That becomes the key question. So what are experts saying about this, right? So experts are saying, well, poverty eradication has slowed down. It's reversed in some cases. So a lot of people have become newly poor. And so meeting the goals are hard, the sustainable development goals. And so the goal of poverty eradication by 2030 may not be achieved. However, can you get back on track? That is the question. And can you do better? So there is this new idea of build better. If you Google that, like there's tons of papers on building better. This is like a reset button, time for a reset button. Can we build back better? So one of the biggest ways you can build better is to strengthen social protection and health systems. Can you come up with innovative schemes? For example, micro-insurance for the poor is one example. Can you mobilize healthcare to reach the poor and think about payment mechanisms that are sustainable? And so that is one way to strengthen the system overall. And as you already mentioned, the people who suffer the most tend to be not only poor, they tend to be women. So, and that is true. Just a short while ago, we had the Me Too movement, right? So it's not just in poor countries, but even in the rich countries, women do face a problem. And during the lockdown, I think they were affected considerably more. And so how do you build systems in place better? So this is a time to rewrite rules, promoting sustainable livelihood that balance efficiency and resilience. If you look at the way that when we talk about business schools in India, I went to a business school in India as well. So we import what we learn from the West. And so a lot of the focus has been on gaining efficiency. So everybody is asked to specialize in one area, produce more, reduce cost. And so that has been the mantra. And that works if all the pieces work together, like we are all in our own silos, right? So, but what happens when that industry falls down? You're not resilient. So you should be able to pivot. So you should be both a generalist as well as a specialist in a particular area. It's like if you're a heart specialist, you cannot say, I'm not going to treat you if you have some other general problem, right? You should be able to treat the whole person, even if you're a specialist in the heart. Maybe you won't be able to open heart surgery, but you should be able to heal outside. Like that, you should be able to think about go beyond just being narrow. So that can prevent people falling back into poverty, be a generalist and a specialist as well. And then growth should be focused on, this is a time people have realized what we heard was people far away from the Himalayas could see it because of the lack of pollution. So people have been made even more aware of how much we are putting out into the, into Mother Nature. Can we make businesses better? So the paradigm should be to put environmental and the governance issue, as Professor Pandey mentioned, the ESG becomes very important. When you look at the stock market, now there are stocks that are based on the ESG ratings as well. And then another way to build a new paradigm is for a higher public investment in education, health, and low carbon infrastructure to reduce pollution. And we have to think of innovative ways of education, because mostly if it's just memorizing, it's not going to be helpful. A lot of the business education tends to be what has happened in the past rather than in creating new systems. So can we create systems that are forward looking and help and think locally as well? That can be very helpful. Also, during the COVID, the people who needed education the most suffered the most, because unlike people who are able to afford being online, like right now, there are people who cannot afford to be online, and they need the education the most and they are deprived. So are there innovative ways of educating? For example, maybe you can educate through television. That we have to think of new ways of education so that that is not disrupted. So that becomes very, very important. Likewise, investing in continuous healthcare, not just a one-time vaccine. Right? Vaccine is important, no doubt. So make sure that it's equitable, because what affects one person is going to affect everybody. As we know now, the disease is not discriminating rich and poor, although the rich have better access to care once they get the disease. So there is hope at the end. And finally, I want to talk about what can management schools do. As I mentioned earlier, you are already ahead of the game, because your whole mission is to provide higher education opportunities for economically challenged, which is very, very admirable. And in general, for management education, I think we should have a curriculum revamp. We do talk about specific skills, we talk about economics, we talk about marketing and so on, but can we come up with innovative ways where we are solving a local problem, a community problem, and maybe a global problem as well? So that is something we have to think about. We have incrementally added over the last 30, 40 years, add ethics, add governance, and so on. And then people go out there, they do the same old thing. So can we incorporate that directly in the way we teach? And then the faculty development can be, one of the interesting things about the COVID is you can take a class anywhere, even for free. If you go to Coursera, for example, that's one example, or edX, you can take free courses. So what are we doing then if you can take courses from some of the best universities like Harvard or MIT, right? So what value add can we do as faculty? So maybe we have to rethink what we do in the classroom. Maybe people can watch something on their own, but we do something else in the time that we are here online. So training for faculty becomes very important, because faculty are also struggling coping with the COVID. So how best to help them, that becomes very important. In fact, doing research on the impact of COVID itself is an opportunity for your faculty, which is something that you can be a pioneer in. Another thing is collaboration with industries. So you have a community problem, a local problem, you already are recruiting people who are economically challenged, and likewise other schools, how can we collaborate with industries so it is meaningful, whatever education we are providing. For example, maybe part of our courses, instead of getting so many credits, can be through an internship with an organization, or solving a local problem, partner with an NGO, and so on. So, and there are also best practices in different parts of the world. Can we adopt them? For example, the BRAC, which is the Bangladesh Rehabilitation Assistant Community, they have this 2-year program where they graduate people. They provide them with cash, they provide them with training, they have a mentorship, and so on. So, and they track them over 2 years. So, and there are similar programs in India as well. Can we use those best practices and see how to incorporate that in our courses? Maybe you have a special course related to poverty eradication. That could be one. And this was interesting. I went to your website and I found this information, and I was quite astounded that you already have an innovative example to create, talk about hospitality training and so on. So this is quite amazing. And I think other schools should be following your example. So what am I telling you? And I'm learning from you. So, really, I think this is a time for us to reset our button. We can learn from all these best practices. If we can even collate and put in one place all the positive things that people have done, and then see if there are any themes emerging from that, that can be a very, very helpful form of research. That's what researchers can collaborate. So basically, to conclude, the bottom of the pyramid we have all suffered during COVID, but bottom of the pyramid has suffered more than others because of the crisis, and government and businesses have provided help, but it's not enough. And it is one-time philanthropy. It's certainly helpful, but this is a time, an opportunity to think, how can we fundamentally change things so that going forward, we create a better world, more inclusive, we take people along, because what affects one affects all of us, and provide safety nets for people, think about innovative ways for that, and very importantly, skills training opportunities. And I think management schools can lead the change and rethink, like, how can we be relevant to businesses, because we are directly related to job creation and staffing the jobs. So those are some thoughts I have, and I think it takes a collaborative effort on all our parts to end poverty. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was indeed motivating and extremely informative session for us. It will now be the turn to propose vote of thanks, and I would like to invite Professor V. Ravishankar, sir, convener of this international seminar, to do this honor. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Anamika, ma'am. Yeah. On behalf of Rajiv Gandhi College of Arts, Commerce and Science, Vashi, Navi, Mumbai, I'm extremely honored to give this vote of thanks on behalf of all the organizing team and committee members for this one-day virtual international seminar. I would like to thank Dr. Saroja Subramanyam, Professor and Chair, School of Economics and Business Administration. He is a AACSB Director also, for accepting our invitation and giving her views and insights, very thoughtful insights, madam, in her keynote address. She talked about building back better. That is the reset button, which we all seen in our laptops and phones. We have to do the basic things like social and health services she has talked about, and reduce inequality. She has given some tips on microfinance and talked about the women. And a good thing, what India is doing right now, she has appreciated that. And she has also seen our website. Thank you, madam. Thank you very much. And your insights were really valuable. Thank you, Saroja. I would like to thank Professor Dr. Sangeeta N. Pawar, Professor and Guide, Department of Commerce Senate Member, University of Mumbai, Maharashtra, for accepting our invitation and giving a very insightful keynote. Thank you very much, madam. Especially for the Asian countries which you have spoken, the organized and the unorganized sectors. the 3Fs, the fuel, fertilizer, and food. And you also spoke of the FDI, foreign direct investment, which is coming into the part of this country and Southeast Asian countries. Very insightful, madam. Thank you very much. Sangeeta Pawar, madam. Thank you. I would like to thank all my colleagues. I would like to give my special thanks to my co-conveners, Ms. Anamika Singh and Ms. Veena Sawant, madam, for the continuous support in organizing and smooth conduction of this international seminar. It was really good, madam. Thank you, madam. Further, I take this opportunity to thank my principal sir, B.S. Pandey sir, who has literally given me this opportunity. I was totally new to arranging and conducting of seminars and all, but I took up this challenge. Thank you very much, sir, for bringing us our skills in making this seminar, conducting this seminar. And further, I thank the organizing committee members and all my colleagues, teaching and non-teaching staff of this college for cooperation in conducting this seminar. Thank you all. Thank you once again. Over to you.
So on behalf of Rajiv Gandhi College, at last, I would like to thank to our esteemed keynote speaker and keynote speaker, our expert chairperson for the technical sessions, our principal sir, all delegates from academia, providing your gracious presence to join us today to enhance this moment in this international seminar. Thank you once again. And at the last, I just request all the participants for technical session 1, please join through the link given in the group at your prescribed time. Thank you, everyone.
So, with permission of Dr. Sangeeta Pawar and Dr. Saroja, would like to end this inauguration session. Thank you so much, madams, for your valuable thoughts, valuable words, and motivational words for all of us. It was really a motivating, very motivational moment for me, because as an institution, first time we are hosting an international virtual seminar, and your presence got the difference. So thank you so much, Dr. Sangeeta Pawar and Dr. Saroja Subramanyam, for your kind words for my institution. Thank you. Thank you all the participants.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Saroja ma'am. It was very insightful. I really rejoiced your lecture, because out and out, each and every aspect you have dwelled it in a very micro manner. So a lot, it was like proud of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Pandey sir. Yeah, I leave this now. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me, Professor Pandey, and thank you, Dr. Sangeeta. I really enjoyed your talk. It reminded me of my economics class long ago. So.
Oh, nice to see that. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.